Hi guys, this is Dormouse03. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about achievement and trophy hunting and how that has evolved for me over the past few years and how it is continuing to evolve and where I'm wanting to go with it in the future. Just want to have a conversation with you guys. So anyone who has known me for a while or who's been around on the channel for a while will know that the majority of my content that I've put up has been off of the Xbox 360 and Xbox One. And I've been mostly an Xbox player for the majority of, I guess, what I would call my gaming history. So I had an Xbox original way back in the day. Really enjoyed that. Played the original Halo on there and the original Fable on there and some of the Grand Theft Autos, GTA 3, GTA Vice City, San Andreas, some Lord of the Rings games that tied in with the movies that were probably not great, but I loved because I was super into the movies at the time. You know, I wasn't a super avid gamer back then. And Morrowind. Morrowind was my love. The Elder Scrolls, I think it was 3. Morrowind, fantastic. Still one of my favorite games of all time. And so, you know, the Xbox was really the console where I kind of fell in love with gaming, fell in love with completing games. So I had 100% completion on the GTA games on there. I had 100% completion in Fable on there. I went through and I did everything. And this was back when, you know, they didn't have achievements or trophies. I went through Morrowind and I looked up online. I was like, I want to do every quest that is possible to do in this game. And so I looked up, you know, every quest and made sure that I did them all. So, you know, that was where I really fell in love with gaming. And now I know the PlayStation 2 was a great console, probably better than the Xbox, being fair. But I didn't have a PS2, I had an Xbox, and so that was where my experience was. And so when it was time to upgrade to a new system, I got an Xbox 360 naturally. So I got the Xbox 360 back in 2006 when it had been out for about a year. I got it for Christmas. I think it came out in November 2005, and I got it around Christmas 2006. Loved that console. I think it was fantastic. The 360 was an amazing part of my gaming history. It's where I started with 3 games I think I got when I first got it. I got, of course, the Elder Scrolls Oblivion, because I loved Morrowind so much. Of course, I had to get Oblivion, and I loved that game. It was, again, like all the Elder Scrolls games are fantastic, so of course Oblivion was great. I had the original Gears of War, which for its time was really innovative, and did a lot of things that now have been copied and people don't like anymore. But it was like one of the original like third-person shooters. It was really great at the time. And the original Assassin's Creed, which again was really innovative for its time and sparked, you know, this series that is the thing that we know and either love or hate today. So that was like where I started with my 360. And partway through my time with it, I started to pay attention to these things called achievements. So I had always been kind of someone who wanted to go through and 100% my games. But this achievement system was something that was new. It was like, oh, you know, I can do certain things in the game, these challenges, or, you know, do this specific thing, and you get these achievements for them. And I thought that was cool, but I didn't really pay attention to it a lot until I would say around 2010. This was when I was in college. I had some more free time, I would say. I remember, I believe it was around Christmas 2010, that I said, you know what, I want to go back and see if I can get all of the achievements in some of these games that I have. And so the first game actually that I went back and got 100% in was way back to the original Assassin's Creed. And it was a really fun experience. You know, there were some challenging things, challenging more so that it was a little bit frustrating to find them all, but collecting all of the flags, collecting all of the Templars, which were notoriously buggy to spawn, but I was lucky I didn't have a lot of problems with that, and I was able to 100% complete that game, and I was like, this is awesome, that felt great. And so I started doing that with some of my other games and going back and cleaning them up. I went back and I cleaned up Oblivion. I actually had the majority of the achievements in Oblivion, but I didn't have the DLC. And so I got the Shivering Isles DLC and played that and got all of the achievements in that. That was a great piece of DLC, actually. That was back when they actually did things called expansions, which some games still do, I guess I would consider. Things like The Witcher 3, I would consider those DLCs expansions rather than what we typically refer to as DLC, which is a piece of short, probably tacked on content or something that was removed from the game and then added back in. But back with the Shivering Isles and Oblivion, that was definitely an expansion, and it was fantastic. And so I had a great time with that. I cleaned that up, and I did some other things, and I was like, oh, this is super cool. I got really into it, and I was like, all right, I want to 100% as much as I can. And that's kind of how this little bug started with me. And so it was neat. It was like, okay, these are little challenges, things that I can go back and do and that will bring life back to my games. You know, an excuse to go back and play some of these games that I had played before and find a new love for them and complete them and get that sense of, I hate to use the word, but achievement. You know, I've done this. I've completed it 100%. I've done everything that, you know, the developers have deemed to be important for fully experiencing this game, right? And at the time, like I said, I was in college, so I didn't have a ton of money, and it was a good way to like squeeze some extra value out of these games too. So I didn't have a ton of games, and it was a way to sort of go back and replay things that I had played already and experience more of them and get some of that extra value out of them. And that was kind of how I saw it at the time. And somewhere over the course of the years, it changed. And maybe that's because I've changed, and maybe that's because achievements and trophies have changed. Maybe it's because the video game industry has changed. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's probably a combination of all of those things. But somewhere along the line, I would say around the time the new console generation released. So around the time that the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 came out, which I don't know exactly when that was. I want to say it was sometime around 2014 is when things really started to change. So I had 4 or 5 years of cleaning up old, achievements, getting new ones, and then, onto a whole new console generation, which was another cool thing. And I began to notice that it just felt different. There were so many more things that had DLC at this point. And I would say the majority of those DLCs were not really things that I wanted to play. They were generally kind of tacked on content. Some of it was these frustratingly difficult challenge modes or different game modes that just felt like it was unnecessary. again, like, this started to become more and more prevalent, and I think is still very prevalent today. You know, you go on, you start a game and you look at it, and very rarely is the base game everything that exists for the game. Generally, they have some kind of DLC or title updates, and a lot of times those things are there for cash grabs, either to grab some cash from purchasing the DLC itself, or having it be a free title update in something like Gears of War, where they want you to buy their packs, you know, in order to be able to get it done faster. So gaming started to change. Achievement hunting started to change. It began to feel a lot more like work than fun. It felt like I had put myself into this corner where I had started to do this thing that was really fun, that was a really fun challenge to try to complete all of these games 100%, even with all the DLC, which wasn't as daunting when I started doing that. That wasn't as daunting back in 2010, 2012, even 2014. But it became more and more daunting as things began to have more of these DLCs that came out. A lot of them were additional, like, challenge modes and whatnot, that while sometimes those things were fun, most of the time they weren't really super fun. And even if they weren't difficult, they didn't, in my opinion, add a whole lot to the game. And so gone was this time when it felt like completing a game added value for me. And I was mostly doing it just because that's what I'd done before. And if I looked at my tag and saw a bunch of incomplete things, it really bothered me, because either I knew I could do them, or if I felt like I couldn't do them, that made me feel somehow like less valuable as a human being, which is a ridiculous thing to say, but it's how it felt, you know? And it just started to not feel good anymore. It started to not feel fun anymore. And for the past few years, I've really struggled with that. And a lot of that magic was just starting to drain out of them for me as I look through some of my daunting, you know, achievement lists and spend 500 plus hours, you know, shooting the same enemies over and over and over again on Gears of War. And it just wasn't fun. And so for the past couple of years, I've been having a little bit of a rethink about how I play games, what I want to do with them, what I want them to be. Because even though achievement hunting had started to lose its luster, which made gaming start to lose its luster, I never stopped playing video games. I never wanted to stop fully playing video games. I enjoy them. I love them. They're one of my top hobbies, one of the things that I really, really like to do. So I've been trying to find that joy again, trying to find that magic again. Something that is very appealing on the PlayStation system over the Xbox system is the existence of the Platinum Trophy. So for those of you who are not PlayStation folks, the Platinum Trophy is a part of the base game of most games on the PlayStation system. And it basically denotes that you have gotten all of the other trophies in the base game. And so that appears on your profile and is this little mark of, hey, you've completed this game. And so even when DLC comes out, you still have your platinum there, which shows that you completed the game, minus all of that extra DLC stuff. And that has been super appealing over the past year, getting platinums and not having to worry about this extra content stuff that gets put out, not have to worry about spending all this extra money on DLC that I don't want to play, not having to worry about extra modes that they tack on that are because, you need an extra challenge. And I'm like, bitch, life is challenging. I don't need an extra challenge of uber fantasticness to show that I have the biggest biceps or something. I don't need that. I just want to complete the game. And so having that platinum trophy there as that mark of I completed this base game has been really, really nice. It's been a refreshing change. I can go on there, I can platinum a game, and I don't have to worry about, is it going to have extra updates? Is it going to have extra content? Am I going to be getting into something that I didn't realize I was getting into when I started this game? And the answer is no, because I can look at a base trophy list and see, does this look like it's going to be a grind? If it does, and I still want to start it, that's okay, because I knew about that going into it. If it has something that's hard, that's okay, because I knew about it going into it. And if anything is tacked on afterward, I don't have to worry about it, because I already have the platinum. Right? And now I know that there are completionists on PlayStation as well. There are people who are like, you need to complete all of the downloadable content too, and, get 100% on your things. And that's fine. That is a fine way to play. That is how I have played for 16 years over on my Xbox. And as of the time of this recording, I have 330 100% completed all DLC games over on that console. And I believe that is out of, I think I have maybe around 25-ish games that I haven't completed over there. Yeah, 356. So out of 356 games, I have completed 100%, 330 of them. I have a 98.8% completion over there, which will go up when I do a couple of DLCs for things like the Outer Worlds, which I am actually excited about playing the DLC for that, and the new Assassin's Creed Valhalla DLC that has recently come out, and when I finish up Mass Effect Legendary Edition, because I have held off on completing that because I'm recording it for this channel. So once I get those things complete, I will sit comfortably above 99% completion on that console. I've done my time with 100%. And now I'm ready for a little bit of a change. And so I'm finding that magic again with platinums. Now I am wanting to shift my perspective to completing the base games and completing the DLCs that I want to complete. I'm not saying that I hate all DLC. I don't hate all DLC. There is some DLC that I think is fun and I think adds to the game. But I want to be able to choose what I want to play, because I am tired of wasting my time and my money on things that do not bring me joy. I'm tired of doing that. I've done that for several years now. I would say at least 5 years now. I've been adding things that I don't really want to spend money and spend time doing. And I'm tired of it. And PlayStation has allowed a bit of an escape from that. So here we are in March 2022. I purchased my PlayStation 4 in December 2015. And so I've had my Dormouse03 account on PlayStation 4 for the past 6 years, 4 months-ish. And I really only have been playing it avidly, I would say, for the past year and a half or so. And I recently hit 20 platinums on there. And I've had such a great time getting platinums on this console for the past year-ish. I mean, I enjoyed getting platinums for the entire time that I've had it, but I really collected the majority of those over the past year and a half. I feel like I'm a more wise individual now than I was perhaps in my early years of achievement hunting. And so now, I know what I like. I know what I don't like. I enjoy a really good single player game. I enjoy completing the base game. I enjoy playing with friends. And so those are the things that I have made the focus of my journey so far on PlayStation. And it has really, really helped to bring some of that joy and some of that magic back to gaming. And so with recently hitting 20 platinums over on PlayStation, I decided that, you know what, I'm going to set a goal for myself. I want to reach 100 platinums. I think that would be fun. That's a fun goal. It's a long way away because I tend to not play super short games. So it's going to take me a little while. But I think that's a fun number. That's a fun goal. And I want to go on this journey with you guys on the channel. I feel invigorated again to be gaming and to be sharing stuff with you guys. And I want to share this little journey of mine that I'm going on. And so I recently hit 20. I wanted to share those 20 platinums with you guys and kind of go through my trophy list and talk to you about what I'm planning for my next 10-ish games to hit 30. And I'm going to have these kind of little goals, right, for each 10. So right now, I want to go through my trophy list with you guys, talk about the 20 platinums that I got so far, and my plan is to make a new video each time I get a new platinum trophy, talk about that game, what I liked about it, if there were things that were frustrating about the game itself or about the platinum and getting that, and just my overall kind of thoughts and experience with that game and earning those trophies. And I hope that will be something that is fun for you guys to go along this little journey with me. So, without further ado, let's take a look and hop in here on my dashboard to my trophy list. And so we're going to pop all the way down here to the bottom and talk about each one of these things. So Uncharted Drake's Fortune is the first in the Uncharted series. This was one of the reasons why I got the PlayStation to begin with, was that I wanted to play the Uncharted series. And the Nathan Drake collection came with the bundle that I purchased. And so this was the first game that I played and the first game that I platinumed. And so you will see here that I started it in December 2015 when I purchased my console. And then I platinumed it on Christmas Day 2015. Got the platinum for Uncharted Drake's Fortune. I really like this game. I love the story. I think that the characters are really fun. And overall, this was a really fun game to platinum. There were some tedious things, going through and getting kills with every gun, and crushing difficulty isn't easy by any means, but it's not the most difficult thing in the world. And so overall, this was a really enjoyable platinum to get. And now this right here, the extended collection trophies, this is, I think, a prime example of one of the reasons why I really like PlayStation right now, is because, are these things the hardest trophies that there ever were? I don't think so. I got a few of them as I was playing along because I was just kind of like trying it out. But I didn't do brutal difficulty. Do I think I could do brutal? Yeah, I think I could. Do I really want to? I don't know that I really do. And I don't have to because it wasn't part of the platinum. This is an extended collection of trophies. And that's part of my whole thing, is like, I'm not necessarily tying myself to 100% total completion anymore. What I really want is to get the platinum in games. So, do I think I could do this? Yeah, I do. Do I think I could do these speed runs? Yes, I do think that I could do those speed runs. but I don't know that I really want to do that stuff. The Uncharted series to me is about the story and is about going along with those characters and having an adventure and that sort of thing. And something like a speed run where all you're gonna do is skip through all the cutscenes and try to avoid as much of the game as you possibly can to get that done in 2.5 hours, you know, to me that defeats the purpose of what's fun to me about Uncharted. And so that is why I just really didn't bother with these extended collection trophies. Will I go back to them? Potentially one day if I feel like it, but I don't feel like I have to. And that is one of the beauties and the freedoms about the PlayStation console for me. So, all of that said, Uncharted Drake's Fortune, really great game, awesome platinum. I'm super happy that that was my first platinum on my PlayStation 4. Second platinum was this game called Until Dawn, and I feel like, I don't know how popular this game was. I think it was free on PS Plus at some point, but I bought it because I love horror games, and this really did it for me. So I really liked this game. I got the platinum in about a year later, actually. November 20th, 2016. As you can see, I really did not play this console very much for the first few years that I had it. So, November 20th, 2016 was when I got the platinum for this one. This was a really great game. You know, it's kind of similar to a Telltale game in that it tells this story and you have dialogue options and little choices and things. But I would say that this game has more gameplay to it than a Telltale game typically does. And it definitely felt like your choices made much more of an impact to the overall story. You could save everyone in this game, or you could play through and everyone in the game could die. And there are trophies attributed to each one of those outcomes and various things in between. And so it was fun to go back through and play those different scenarios and see how the story plays out with various characters alive or dead, and trying to save them all throughout the course of it. Some of the QuickTime events were not super easy either. The timing was really particular, and I will say it was probably harder for me too, because I was so used to an Xbox controller, and so I'm like, which one is the square and which one is the circle, and oh no, I've hit the wrong thing. And so that was probably more me, and not necessarily that the quick times were that difficult, but I will say some of them were pretty precise. So I really liked this game. I thought the story was good. It's a fun horror story, and it wasn't too terribly difficult to complete. I had a great time with it. Horizon Zero Dawn is next, and this one, let's see, I platinumed in March 2017, which was fairly soon after it released, I do believe. I think it came out in February of that year, and I got it either right when it came out or shortly thereafter, and started it on the 28th of February and completed it in a couple of weeks on the 12th of March. And I really loved this game. I have a playthrough of it that's up on my channel if you have any interest in checking that out, where I talk a little bit more about my thoughts about the story. But in a nutshell, I thought the story was fantastic. It was this interesting concept, I think, that really came together very well as it was revealed over the course of the game. I think Aloy is a great character. I liked the world. It was beautiful, and the robot dinosaurs and the robot animals were very cool. I liked the fact that each one of them had this kind of purpose to them that was revealed later in the game, what each of them was originally for, and then they kind of got corrupted. I just think that it was a cool concept and a really, really fun game and a really great platinum. This one, as opposed to Uncharted here, where I don't know if I'll go back and get those extended collection trophies, With this one, I do plan on going back and getting these trophies at some point. I want to play the DLC for sure, because it is supposed to be more of an expansion. So I want to play that before Horizon Forbidden West is played by me. I was going to say before it's out, but it's already out right now as of the recording of this video. So it's out now. I'm definitely going to get that. I'm definitely going to play that here at some point. But I want to do New Game Plus and the hard difficulty, because I think that will be something that is actually fun to do. And it's been long enough now that I would like to go back and replay the game and refresh my memory of it before I play the new entry in the series. So I think that'll be fun to do, and I do want to go back and pick up this DLC. Well, I've already bought it, but I just haven't played it yet. So I want to replay the game. I want to play the DLC. I think that'll be a fun time before I do Forbidden West. Next up is Uncharted 4, A Thief's End. I actually started this one before I started Horizon Zero Dawn, but I just didn't platinum it until after that, because I took a little bit of a break in between finishing the campaign and then going back and doing the multiplayer and then going back and doing the speed run. I just had some breaks in there in terms of my time spent. So I started this one the 25th on Christmas Day, 2016. This seems to be a trend of playing Uncharted games on Christmas. It's weird, but started it, then played it through, and then had a little bit of a gap here for Horizon, it seems. So Horizon slotted neatly into this time period between when I did the majority of Uncharted 4 and then when I came back and did the multiplayer. Played this with a couple of friends, and it was alright. Uncharted doesn't really need multiplayer, in my opinion. I don't really like multiplayer in general, and so, you know, it was fine. The trophies were not that difficult. It didn't make you play it forever. I just don't think it was necessary, so that's all I really have to say about that. And then I took another little break in between finishing that up and doing the speed run, which I combined with the 70% accuracy in order to get my plat there in August 2017. So Uncharted 4, I have a little bit more of a controversial opinion about, I think. I did not think that this was the best Uncharted in the series. I think that it suffered a little bit because I really think they wrapped up Nate's story pretty nicely in Uncharted 3. And they didn't really need another game, but they wanted to come back and make another game, either because they wanted to cash in on it again, or because they wanted to have a little like crown jewel in their Uncharted Nate series, the Nathan Drake story. And so they came back and they needed a reason for him to get back into treasure hunting, and so they came up with this story with him and his brother. And it was a brother who was never mentioned at all throughout the entire series. And they try to explain that a little bit, but it just doesn't work for me. Narratively, it feels like something that they pulled out so that they could make this game. And therefore, they had to make the game longer because they had to build up this relationship with this brother in order to make you care about him, because Nate cares about him. And so you have these entire sections of the game where you are getting to know Sam, Nate's brother, as a character. And it just really elongates the game. It makes it feel bloated, in my opinion. The pacing feels a little bit wrong. And it's just too long. I think it's too long for the kind of game that it is. The linear story that it is trying to tell. The linear story that all of the Uncharted's are. It just felt like it was too long. And I think that it suffered for it, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. But other than that, I think that it was a really good game. The gameplay was probably the best in the series. The visuals were great. The acting, as always, was very good. I just think that the story was... They tried to pull something out in order to tug at your heartstrings and to give a reason for this game to exist. And I just think they failed a little bit on the narrative side of things. And that's just my opinion, but there it is. So, still a really good game, a really fun platinum. I enjoyed my time with it. That's Uncharted 4. Uncharted Lost Legacy is kind of the opposite of Uncharted 4 to me. I thought Uncharted The Lost Legacy was amazing. I loved this game. It was not too long. Where Uncharted 4 felt bloated, The Lost Legacy felt very tight. It told a nice linear story. It had some great characters. Chloe is probably my favorite character in the entire series. And so having a game where she was the lead along with Nadine, who I think made a great partner for her in this game, I think that all of that worked very, very well. And the only little qualm that I guess I would have with it is it did have a bit of an open world section in the middle of it where you could kind of drive around and do things in a different order. I don't really think it needed that. I don't think that it was a problem, but I don't think that it was necessary. I think that they could have just stuck with this is a linear story that we are telling and you're going along this adventure with them. It didn't need an open world section. You know, it just didn't need it. And so if I could give any criticism, it would be that. But it was very sort of minor, I think, in comparison to what the game was, which I think proof that Uncharted can exist without Nathan Drake as a main character. Could he come back in as a side character? I think that would be super fun. But I think Uncharted does work without him, and I think Chloe is a great natural successor for him for a couple more games in the series. I would love to see them do that. I thought this game was really good. It is, I think, second probably only to Uncharted 2 in my mind in terms of the Uncharted series. So, loved this one. Started it on the 22nd of August 2017 and completed it on the 27th. Great game. Destiny 2 is a game that I picked up to play with some friends on PlayStation, and I played Destiny 1 on my Xbox and had that 100% completed on the 360 version of it when it came out. And I wanted to move this series over to PlayStation because my friend Iron War Machine wanted to do that. I also wanted to play with a friend of mine, Exonovent, from a channel called Square One Games, which I'm going to shout out. I'll put a link to him in the comments below. I have a couple of things that I'm going to say about him as we go through some of these trophy lists. But he makes great guides. He's a great guy. And so I wanted to play with him. I wanted to play with my best friend, adventure bestie, Iron War Machine. And so we did this over on PlayStation instead of on Xbox. And one of the reasons for that is because we didn't want to have to worry about doing any of the updates and DLC for it. It turns out that they really only did one of these that had trophies attached to it, but we didn't want to tie ourselves to having to keep coming back over and over if they were going to continue to put content out. So we just wanted to platinum the base game. So here we go. Destiny 2. Started this bad boy on September 6, 2017 and played it for about a month. A little less than. Got the platinum on October 1st, 2017. This game was pretty good. I enjoyed the, first person shooter MMO style thing with the loot and whatnot. Really, really enjoyed doing the Grandmaster difficulty Nightfall Strike. I thought that was very fun. I think, and they changed this trophy, I think. The Belly of the Beast trophy was it used to be for doing the raid, I want to say, and then they changed it to doing a Nightfall Strike or the raid, maybe. I don't know. I can't 100% recall, but I know that there was one for doing the raid, and I don't see it on here anymore. And I know that we had a great amount of fun doing the Nightfall Strike on Grandmaster. I know that we did not have a lot of fun doing the raid. They changed a bunch of the raid mechanics in between the first Destiny and the second Destiny, and just the way that it was done, I didn't enjoy. And so that really kind of killed this game for me. Whereas Destiny 1, I loved the Vault of Glass raid. It was real fun to come back to every week and try to do it on hard when the hard raid came out, get more loot, level up my light level. I had a lot of fun with Destiny 1. But Destiny 2, I didn't really love the raid. And so after I finished the game, there just wasn't a lot of post-game content that I was interested in doing. And so didn't really play it very much after that. But all in all, it was a fun little game to play with friends. Detroit Become Human is another narrative, story-driven game, kind of similar to Until Dawn, kind of similar to Telltale games in that it's not really focused on gameplay so much, more so focused on the story and the choices that you make going through it. I think this was a fantastic game. Again, this is one of the games that made me want to have a PlayStation. I think the games that really made me want to jump over to PlayStation and play some of those exclusives were the Uncharted series and Horizon and Detroit. Like, these were some of the games that I really, really wanted to play. And so when this came out, I was all over it. I was all about it. I played it through several times because you kind of need to play it through several times to get all of the story, you know, to see all of the different ways that things can play out and to get all of the trophies. And I just thought that it was really, really fun. I think that it told a really good story along the lines of kind of a Blade Runner type thing, where it's like, can androids be people? It's not necessarily doing anything super new with that type of story, but I think that it told it well, and I really liked the characters, I liked the world, and I liked the divergent paths and the way that things could turn out really differently depending on the choices that you made. It really felt like it was a choice-driven game. Whereas I think sometimes games like The Walking Dead, Telltale's Walking Dead, and some of those types of things have, for me, felt more like my choices added a little bit of flavor to the story, but they didn't necessarily change things very much. Whereas with this game, as with Until Dawn before it really did feel like a lot changed based on the choices that you made. And I like that. I think that was done very well. I would definitely recommend this game. I think that it was fantastic. So that is Detroit Become Human. The Last of Us Remastered. Clearly, I have not played. So I popped this in at some point where I was in between some games, and I just wanted to play it for a little bit. I had seen it played, so I know how the story goes and everything, and I knew I definitely wanted to play it, and I still definitely do want to play it, but I didn't pop any trophies in it. I played it for a little while until something else came out that I wanted to play, and then I kind of came away from it, and I haven't come back to it yet. But this is one that I definitely want to do. The thing that is kind of holding me back from playing it is the multiplayer stuff on there. I know that there is kind of a long grind for the multiplayer trophies, and I am going to do it, but I just want to do it at a time where I'm prepared for that grind, right? I don't want to have it sit there and leave it on my tag and be unfinished. When I play it, I want to platinum it. So I'm going to come back to it at a point when I'm prepared for a grind like that, and that time just hasn't happened yet. But I know that this is a great game. I like the story. I think that Joel and Ellie are great characters. You know, this is a fantastic game. I just haven't fully committed to it just yet. Dark Souls Remastered. is what I believe was the point where I really started getting more into trophy hunting on my PlayStation 4. And I know what you might say, well, but Dormouse, you'd already platinumed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games on your PlayStation before Dark Souls Remastered. What makes you say that this was the start of it? You'd had the console for about a little over 4 years by the time this came out, and you'd already platinumed a bunch of games, so what gives? So this was the first game that I had already completed on another console. I've actually completed Dark Souls 3 times, 100%. I completed it on the 360. I completed it as the remaster on Xbox One, and I've platinumed it here. And that's because I love this game. Dark Souls is one of my favorite games of all time. Specifically, Dark Souls 1, I think, is my favorite of the series. I just think that the gameplay loop for me, it just works. I like it a lot. I like the strategy to it. I like being able to go in and co-op and help people with bosses and getting through areas. I like being able to play with my best friend and go through and beast on some fools. You know, I like being able to play it by myself. I think that it's a really fun experience whether you're playing it solo or whether you're playing it with friends. I just love this game. And this is the first game that I decided, okay, I really loved this game when I played it before. I want to play it again and platinum it on PlayStation. And so I would say that this kind of marks this journey of like, I really want to play some more things on PlayStation and get some more platinums. And so that is kind of what this was for me. It was, I think, spurred on a little bit by my best buddy Iron War Machine, Iron Praetorian over on Xbox, Iron War Machine on PlayStation. And he really wanted to get this and play it and platinum it. And I was like, yeah, buddy, let's go. And so we did. And that kind of got us moving over from Xbox and onto PlayStation for a lot of our co-op games. So, Dark Souls Remastered, amazing, love it, done it 3 times, would do it 3 more times, or 10 more times. I love this game. Bloodborne is the next one that we took on, much later, actually. So this was actually the next year that we actually platinumed this thing, although we did start it in October of 2020. And I know why people love this game. I know people really like the faster pace. I know people really like the Victorian Gothic aesthetic. I don't. I don't like that aesthetic more. I'm not saying that I didn't like the game overall, because I think overall I did like Bloodborne, but I do not like Bloodborne as much as I like Dark Souls. I think Dark Souls, for me, is the superior title and series of titles. I would pick any of the Dark Souls games over Bloodborne because I like the gameplay better for them. I think they're a little bit slower. I think they are more tactical. I think that Bloodborne is all about getting in there and being fast and doing the quick hits and, dodging and, trading damage with people, hitting them so that you can recover your health before you get hit again. And I understand why people like that, but it's just not my bag of chips. And so while it was fun, and it was fun to play with my friend, and we are going to go back and do the Old Hunters DLC here at some point, probably after we finish Dark Souls 3. It just is not my favorite of the Soulsborne series, and so as Bloodborne, it's a great game. Definitely I would still recommend it. I'm not sorry that I played it, but it was not as fun as Dark Souls to me. Uncharted 2 is my favorite Uncharted game, and I just think that it's great. I mean, I don't know what more there is really to say about the Uncharted series. I pretty much covered it when I talked about the earlier 3. But I went back and platinumed Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 3. So February 2021 to March 4th, 2021 to get the platinum there. Just blazed through this game. Loved every minute of it. It was a really good story. I think they did a great job in terms of the structure, where you sort of start in the middle and then go back to the beginning and play up to that point and then move forward. I thought that structure really worked for this story. I loved Chloe, obviously, and so she was in this game quite a bit, and I liked that about it. And it was just overall, I think, the best story and the best pacing and just the overall best of the Uncharted series. Uncharted 2, Among Thieves, highly recommend. Didn't do the extended collection trophies for the same reasons that I didn't do them for Drake's Fortune. I'm just not super interested in doing a speed run and going back and doing a harder difficulty. Like, could I do them? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I could. Do I want to? Not particularly. Got my platinum, and now I'm done. Same deal for Uncharted 3. I don't think that Uncharted 3 was as good as 2 or 1, but it was a still really good game. It I think wrapped up Nate's story pretty nicely, which is why I think, Uncharted 4 probably didn't need to exist. But I'm okay that it exists, it was still a good game to play. But Uncharted 3, I think, really finished up that original trilogy pretty well. And while I don't think that the story was quite as strong, I do still think that it was good, and it was fun, and it was a fun platinum. I played this pretty soon after I played 2. Started on March 28th, 2021, and completed on April 3rd, 2021. So, fun game. Loved the Uncharted series. Again, didn't care about those. Got my plat, moved on. The Unfinished Swan is next, and you'll notice this does not have a platinum, and so it does not count for my 20 platinums, but I do want to talk about it briefly because I think that this was a great little indie game. It only took a couple of days to complete. It was one of those artsy kinds of games, so it was very stylized. You're kind of playing through this painting storybook kind of thing, where most of the area is blank and you sort of shoot out these paintballs and the paint splats over the environment and therefore then creates the environment. It's a really interesting little concept and told a really cute little story. It was good. It kind of tugged at the old heartstrings, and it was fun. I would say this minimalist trophy was the most difficult one of the bunch, because you had to play through the whole first level without throwing. You had only 3 balls of paint that you could throw out, and so for the most of the time you were going through a completely white landscape, and so you had to kind of count your steps, look for a couple of little visual cues where you could see the swans like footprints, where you could know where to go, and you had to listen for some audio cues to kind of know where you were going and navigate through, and you had to strategically use those 3 balls that you could throw in a couple of sections where you really needed to orient yourself and know where you were going to go next. So I would say that one was actually pretty challenging, but other than that, this was a pretty easy platinum, a fun game, a nice little story. I would definitely recommend it. This is a really great indie game. And then there's Anthem. So I said that my friend Iron War Machine and I moved a lot of our co-op games over to PlayStation 4, and this is one of them. We wanted to try out Anthem, and I really liked Anthem for what it was. It's a BioWare game, but it's not a BioWare game like Mass Effect and Dragon Age and Jade Empire, if anybody remembers that one. and Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Like, it's not a BioWare game like those games, right? This is them taking a shot at an MMO. And I mean, I can see why people didn't like it for that reason. You know, it was not like their other games. It was not as story driven, although it did have a decent enough story, I thought. But the reason why I had fun with this was, you know, flying around and shooting things with my best friend is just always going to be fun. I think the gameplay worked. We played it pretty far after it released. Like, it was a couple of years after this game came out. And so they had fixed a lot of the bugs and things that I think existed when this game first came out. And it was a much smoother experience for us than it might have been for other people who played this game at release. Again, I can see why people didn't really love it, because at the end, it was just kind of a grind. You know, you had to get through a bunch of these gear challenges and collectibles and stuff like that. And, you know, it wasn't the longest thing that I've ever done, but it also wasn't brief. And, you know, it was fine for what it was. My friend and I, we hung out, we ground up some kills. That sounded weird. We ground out some kills, and we got our trophies, and we got our platinum, and then we moved on. You know, it's not something that I think I would want to go back to and just pop in and play for fun on the regular, but I think it was a good experience for what it was. Battlefield 1 is another one of these games that I wanted to do on the PlayStation because I didn't want to be tied to all this multiplayer DLC, but I did want to play the main campaign of Battlefield 1. I was really interested in the story. It was the first Battlefield in a long time that really grabbed me. I played Battlefield Bad Company 2 back on the Xbox 360 and 100%ed that. And it was pretty good as far as I remember. I mean, it's a much older game right now, but when I played it at the time, I had fun with it. But as I said before, I'm not really into multiplayer. And so a lot of the other Battlefields just never really grabbed me until this one. The story really enticed me and made me want to play this. And the multiplayer trophies on the base game were not super in-depth and complicated. I think it was Iron War Machine and I played the multiplayer on this as well. And it was a few days of going in for a couple of hours a day and, you know, getting some ranks and getting a couple of field manuals and kills and things done. And it wasn't too horrendous. Wasn't super fun. Like, I think it's a good multiplayer. Like, it's a fine multiplayer if you like multiplayer, but I'm not super into multiplayer. So if it hadn't been on there, it would have been even better. But as it was fine. And then that allowed me to later go through this campaign. And so there were 5 little stories that were told, and they were each really different. So Through Mud and Blood was about people with a tank. Friends in High Places was about fighter pilots. Avanti Savoia was about this, I think they were Italians who had this heavy armor and these like heavy weaponry, and that was pretty fun. The Runner was about someone who was sort of on the ground, running from point to point, getting messages to people who needed to have intel and that sort of thing, and told this really good story about this mentor and his kind of protege and trying to save him. And that was really good. And then Nothing Is Written was more of a kind of assassin type person who was working with Lawrence of Arabia and doing some strategic kills in the war. And so they were all really different, and it was just overall really fun. I did very much enjoy the story of this game, even though I didn't really care for the multiplayer. The story, for me, was worth it. I don't know if I'll play any more Battlefield series games. Maybe the story will really grab me for one of the other ones, and I'll want to platinum that one. But for now, this was the only Battlefield that I really plan on playing on the PlayStation, but I had fun with it for what it was, and I am never going back to do these multiplayer trophies. This one popped by accident. It was served with complete one service assignment. Apparently I did that. I think it was something super easy and popped it by accident when I was playing through the rest of the multiplayer. So that's why that exists there, but I certainly was not trying to get any of those. So not going to go back and play the multiplayer, but I got my platinum and enjoyed the single player. Woo freaking who. Overcooked All You Can Eat is a fantastic game. Yet another one of the co-op adventures with Iron War Machine. This is all of the content from Overcooked 1 and 2 in one nice, cute, fun little package. If you haven't ever played this game or seen this game played, you owe it to yourself to do that, because it's super fun. It's cute. It's got simple gameplay, but it gets, more challenging when you start having things like conveyor belts and portals and parts of the platform that are moving or dropping off, or that you have to move them all around. It's like a puzzle that you have to do and complete the orders in a certain amount of time, and it's a really fun game. And so I very, very much enjoyed platinuming this with Iron War Machine. He's a boss at this, by the way. He completed the original Overcooked solo over on Xbox, and kudos to that man for doing that by himself, because this game by yourself is not easy. So with a friend who is, good at the game, it's not too bad. But if you're doing it by yourself, ooh buddy, some of those, especially on the first game, getting 3 stars in them can be very challenging. So hats off to you, my friend, for completing Overcooked. But Overcooked All You Can Eat, very fun time. Ghost Recon Wildlands is another of our co-op adventures. And this one, I didn't love this game. This may be my least favorite game that I've platinumed on my PlayStation. It's not that it was a bad game, it's just that it was very repetitive. So it's one of these Ubisoft games where the map is huge and there's about 5 things to do on it that are copied and pasted over 20 something areas. And it was just long and grindy with a lot of collectibles and a lot of doing the same thing over and over and over. The story also, it was fine, the main story, but it felt too long. There were too many people that you had to go and kill and take out in very similar fashions. Like, a bunch of them didn't feel all that different from one another. And so it really just felt like we were flying around and driving around doing the same thing over and over and over for about 80 hours. It was maybe 10 hours. If it had been a 20-hour game, I think it would have been very fun. But as a 60 to 80-hour game, it was just too much of the same thing and not enough reason to have all of that stuff in there. So that's my opinion of Ghost Recon Wildlands. Again, I can understand why people may have really liked this game and had fun with it, but it just didn't catch me. Beyond Two Souls is another Quantic Dream game by the same developers that made Detroit Become Human. Beyond Two Souls actually came out before Detroit Become Human, and it's one that I wanted to go back and play because I just like that style of game. I thought it was an interesting story. You play as Jodie, this girl who is connected to an entity called Aiden, and you have control of both of them and you sort of switch back and forth between them. And So you're going through this kind of supernatural kind of thing. It's a very non-linear story, so you're booping back and forth between different spots in Jodie's life and kind of seeing how things got to be how they are and how she evolved as a person, and you make some choices along the way that impact some things. I didn't like this as much as Detroit. I think that it was, again, a little bit too long. There was an entire section in there that was pretty lengthy where she goes to not visit, but she stays with some Navajo people. And not that it was a bad section, like that section was fine, but it felt very kind of disconnected from the rest of the story, and I don't know exactly why it was in there. I think that it kind of detracted from the momentum that the story had going forward. And so I don't know, it's hard because it's not that was a bad little side plot line that existed there, but I feel like it wasn't necessary and it made the game longer than it really needed to be. And that's the one that just stands out. But there were probably a couple of other little sections in there that probably didn't necessarily need to be included in the story. And it could have been a little bit more of a tight experience. And so that kind of pulled it down for me a little bit. But the story overall is pretty good. And the acting's really good. And it's an interesting concept, right? Like that you're controlling this person and also this entity that's connected to her. And so, and it looked like, they meant for it to have a sequel at some point, but I don't think that that's ever going to happen. And so it just sort of leaves it feeling like, that's cool. Willem Dafoe is in this and he's really awesome. So kudos to that. Ellen Page is in this before he was Elliot Page, and so they did very, very good acting. So props to the actors in this. The story, it was just a little bit, it was okay. Dark Souls 2 I love. Again, I have 100% completed this game 3 times on the Xbox 360, on the Xbox One, and now the Platinum on the PlayStation. Loved going back through this with my friend. Iron War Machine. We devoured and tore through this thing between November 7th, 2021 and November 30th, 2021. And it's no slouch. I mean, you have to play through the game 2.5 times. You have to go into New Game Plus through about half of the game in order to get all of the pyromancies and miracles that you need, because there's a person that won't sell you the ones that you need until you get there in New Game Plus. And so, it's not a short completion by any means. It's probably the longest of the Souls series, I think. And so that one took a little bit of time, but I definitely enjoy Dark Souls 2. I don't think it's as good as Dark Souls 1, but I enjoy it more than Bloodborne, so there's that. Dark Souls, woohoo, love it. Infamous Second Son is another one of those PlayStation exclusives that I really wanted to play, and one of the reasons why I wanted a PlayStation console. I think that this game was good. I enjoyed the story of it. I think that the map was big enough to be an open world game, but it wasn't too big. So it wasn't like Ghost Recon Wildlands where it's huge and there's like a bunch of things that you have to do ad nauseum. Similar, there were a bunch of little things that you had to collect and some tags that you had to spray paint and stuff like that. And so you were doing the same thing over and over, but you weren't doing it over and over and over for 80 hours. You were doing it over and over for like a couple of hours. And so that's much more palatable to me than something like Wildlands. I liked the story of this. I thought Delsin was a pretty good character. I did not like the evil playthrough. I thought that was... He was mean. He was mean and a completely bad person, and it just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me why they couldn't have just told a story. It didn't really benefit from having choices, in my opinion, to where you could be evil or good. I think you just could have been a story where Delsin was a good guy, and it told that story, and I think that would have made it better. But as it was, it had fun gameplay, and I enjoyed my time with it. Infamous First Light is a spin-off of Infamous Second Son. It was a little bit shorter. It didn't have that choice-based system that I didn't really like from the first game. The only thing that I think was worse about First Light is that you didn't have as many different powers. It just focused on one ability set, because the character in this Fetch only had the one ability set. And that was fine. It was short. You got to level up your powers. It had this little challenge mode section where, it was split between you did the story and then you did these challenge rooms where you were fighting a bunch of different people that were generated by the lady who is keeping you captive. And it was fine. So this was a challenge mode that I think was fair. It was challenging, but it wasn't overly difficult, I don't think. And it was a nice little platinum trophy. It was pretty quick. It took me about a week, I think, from the 9th to the 15th, when I was just sort of playing it casually throughout the week, and I enjoyed it. And then the last platinum that I have right now, my 20th platinum, is Marvel's Spider-Man. So this is a fantastic game. I have 100%ed this. I've done all the DLC in this one because I wanted to. I thought that this was going to be story DLC, and it was, and it added something to the game. It added a nice little story that was told in 3 parts, and I thought that was good. But the main game overall, it told a great Spider-Man story. I think it really encapsulated sort of the character that Spider-Man is. Peter Parker is he's a down-to-earth, everyman kind of guy who wants to help the little guys. He's not necessarily the person who's saving the universe all the time. He's the person who is stopping the mugger from hurting the old lady and bringing the cat down out of the tree and that kind of stuff. Not that he can't do the bigger heroic things, but just the kind of person that he is he cares about everybody. And I think that this game really captured that very well. So it was a great Spider-Man story. It was a really fun experience. I thought that it was very fun to play. The web swinging and the combat mechanics were really slick and intuitive. It was sort of a Batman Arkham style mechanics for that. And then swinging around the city was just super fun. You'd get the call from somebody and they'd be talking to you, explaining what was going on, and I'm just swinging around a building, right? It was a fun time. Got that trophy, the platinum, on the 20th of February, and I started on the 11th. So again, it took me a little over a week to get this platinum, not super long. And then I went in for the DLC, and I finished the last of the DLCs on the 24th. So only a couple days. They were fairly brief, a few hours each. And then I was like, you know what, why not? Let's just get these other ones and play through again and just do a story playthrough. Didn't take very long, and completed this thing on the 26th of February 2022. And so those are my 20 platinums. Marvel Spider-Man, Infamous First Light, Infamous Second Son, Dark Souls 2, Beyond Two Souls, Ghost Recon Wildlands, Overcooked All You Can Eat, Battlefield 1, Anthem, Uncharted 3, Uncharted 2, Bloodborne, Dark Souls Remastered, Detroit Become Human, Destiny 2, Uncharted The Lost Legacy, Uncharted 4, Horizon Zero Dawn, Until Dawn, and Uncharted Drake's Fortune Remastered. So that is my journey so far, you guys, and you can definitely see that it picked up after about 2020. In early 2021, I really started focusing more on my PlayStation and getting more of these trophies, and I have really started to enjoy it. It's been a great time. I've, for the most part, really enjoyed all of the games that I have played. I would say the only one that really stands out that wasn't quite so good was Ghost Recon Wildlands. And that was just a preference thing. Again, I don't think that it was a horrible game. It just wasn't as good as some of the other ones that I played, in my opinion, for me. So, what is on the horizon for Dormouse 03? So I have 3 games that are being played right now, and then I have another 8. So go with me here for a second. I'm wanting to talk about my next 10 platinums that I'm planning to get. And yes, 3 plus 8 does add up to 11 games, but one of them does not have a platinum trophy. So it cannot count, unfortunately, for my next 10 platinums. And I want to talk to you a little bit about those 10 platinums, 11 games that are sort of in my queue coming up. So the first one that we'll talk about is the one that does not have a platinum trophy. That is Journey. Journey is one of those games that I've been wanting to play for a really long time. It's one of the ones that I wanted to play when I got my PlayStation 4, and I just hadn't gotten around to it yet. But I am so glad that I did. It's a absolutely fantastic little title. It's beautiful. The music is gorgeous. The visual storytelling in this game is, I think, second to none. And it's just a very emotional little game. It tells what I think. I mean, it's up to sort of interpretation as to what you think this game is about. But for me, this is about the journey of life and a life lived. And I think that it does it in a very artistic, stylized way that, as I said, is gorgeous and really fun to play. I have thoroughly enjoyed my time with this one, and I will be completing it today, actually. So as soon as I finish recording this, I'm going to hop on here and I'm going to get this because it will be a week since I played this game. And then that will be my last trophy that I need in order for the completion here. Sadly, there's no platinum though, and so it cannot count for my next 10 platinums. But even though it does not have a platinum, I would highly recommend this game. I know it's an older game, and so most people have probably played it at this point, but if you have not played this game, you owe it to yourself to go back and play this little gem. It is a fantastic game. Next on the list is Dark Souls 3. So this is where Iron War Machine and I are at in the Dark Souls series. We've started it. We have, at this point, gotten through the Crystal Sage and are about to do the Deacons of the Deep at the Cathedral of the Deep. Obviously, I've played through this game before, so I 100%ed it back on my Xbox One. And so this will be my second time completing this game. And again, it's the Soul series. I love it. That's why I'm doing it again. And I am going to have a great time. We're going to have a great time going through it and playing through Dark Souls 3 again. So that's definitely going to be one of my next 10 platinum trophies on my way to the next milestone of 30. And then the next one, which I actually will complete this one before I complete Dark Souls 3, because I only have a couple of things left to do in it. You see, I've done all the DLC so far, and I only have, let's see, finish the main story. That's the last thing that I have to do. Skyrim's a fantastic game. I love the Elder Scrolls series. As I mentioned earlier, I played Morrowind, I played Oblivion. I love the series. I've 100%ed Skyrim and all of its DLC 3 times. This will be the 3rd time now. And so, it's one of the games that I really truly love. I wanted to platinum it on PlayStation, and it's one of these games that I have just kind of dabbled with over the years. So I started it in 2019, and I just kind of played it every now and again. I'd hop in, I'd get some trophies, I'd do some quests, and and now here we are in 2022, and I'm very close to finishing it. So I played it pretty casually over a long period of time whenever I just wanted to hop in and explore and enjoy this world, and that's been very satisfying for me. So it will be very, very nice to add Skyrim to my Platinum collection as one of my next 10 games. So, whew, there we go. That is all of the games so far that I have on my Platinum collection, on my trophy collection. And a little peek at some of the next ones that I'm going to play. I'm definitely going to Platinum Dark Souls 3, and I'm definitely going to Platinum Skyrim. Those are going to be 2 of my next 10 plats. And so there is only one other game that is a definite for sure game that is going to be part of my next 10 platinums, and that is The Witcher 3. The Witcher 3 is one of my favorite games of all time, very similar to Dark Souls and Skyrim, a fantastic RPG that I have completed already over on the Xbox, and I want to complete again on the PlayStation because I just love it, and I want to have it on my trophy collection. And so I'm going to play the complete edition of that game and play through all the DLC, the I would say expansions for that game, and play through the base game, and play Gwent a lot, and I'm going to enjoy every second of it. I'm very excited to play that game again. And my buddy Exonomant over at Square One Games is actually going to be coming out with a guide for The Witcher 3 very, very soon. Hopefully within the next week, I think, as of the recording of this video. And he does these amazing guides that are so very, very thorough, so very researched and streamlined. And since I've played the game before, I am going to enjoy kind of going through his guide as it releases and playing along with him. And he runs a little contest whenever he puts out a road to completion guide for the games that he covers. And for the patrons on his Patreon, of which I am one, you can do a little bit of a race, right? Like you can compete with everybody else and see if you can go through and get your trophies in the same order that he gets them on his guide, and complete that and get your platinum before any of the other patrons, right? And I just think that it's a fun little challenge. I'm not super worried about winning it. I probably won't, because I'm going to listen to all the cutscenes and stuff because I really love the game. But, so I'm not going to complete it as fast as it's probably possible to be completed. But I think that it'll be a fun little reason to just kind of get back into The Witcher and play it and do it and throw some support to my friend over there. You should definitely check out his channel. Again, the link is in the description below. And, and if you want to participate in that, join his Patreon. It's a really fun time. It's a great little community over there. So, definitely going to do The Witcher 3. And so those are the 3 that are for sure. Dark Souls 3, Skyrim, and The Witcher 3 are for sure going to be part of my next 10 platinums. The other 7 are going to be from my backlog of games, most likely. These are games that I already have purchased on PlayStation and are just waiting to be played. And so these are the 7 that I think will end up being part of my next 10 platinums on my way to 30, which is my next milestone on my way to 100. So these are Doom Eternal, God of War 3 Remastered, God of War, 4, the new one, Watch Dogs Legion, Grim Fandango, Heavy Rain, and This War of Mine, The Little Ones. So a little bit about why these are games that I've chosen, things that I want to play. So Doom Eternal, I played Doom, the sort of new version of Doom, I guess, when it came out in, was it 2017, 2018, 2016, one of those years. I played that over on the Xbox and completed it. I thought it was fun. I again, had multiplayer in it. I don't super love the multiplayer. And in order to avoid any future multiplayer DLC, I'm going to play this on the PlayStation, get the Platinum for Doom Eternal, and then, if there's DLC for it, I can pick and choose whether I want to do that in the future, but I won't be tied to it. So I'm looking forward to playing Doom Eternal. I really enjoyed Doom, the new version of it. God of War 3. So I have never played a God of War game. Obviously, I haven't had a PlayStation until now. And God of War 3 is a remaster. It's one of the ones that is supposed to be really good, and I'm looking forward to playing an old school style God of War game. And I bought this a while ago. I'm looking forward to playing as Kratos, and I'm hoping that will get me kind of into the series and ready for the game that I really, really want to play, which is God of War in brackets 4 ? The newest one, where it's set in the Norse setting and it's Kratos and his son, and that one just looks really, really good. I'm very, very excited to play that one. I think by everything that I have heard about it, it's supposed to be one of the best games on the PlayStation ever. And so I'm very, very much looking forward to playing that one. It's sitting in my drawer, ready to be played. Next is Watch Dogs Legion. So the Watch Dogs series, I'm kind of iffy about. I liked the first one okay. I completed Watch Dogs 1 and Watch Dogs 2 on my Xbox account. And Watch Dogs 1 was alright, except Aiden Pierce was a terrible protagonist. He was a piece of cardboard. He just sucked. And Watch Dogs 2, in my opinion, was a lot better. I really liked the protagonist of that game, and I thought that it was a much, much better game. And so I was timidly excited, maybe a little bit, for Watch Dogs Legion when it was announced. It looks kind of fun in terms of, you play as a bunch of different characters instead of maybe one main character, so I think that might be kind of interesting. I have not heard good things about this game, and so I'm going into it with an open mind. Maybe I will like it, maybe I will not, but I will not be tied to all of the DLC, because I will platinum it, and then that will probably be the end of Watch Dogs Legion for me. So that's on my list. And then we have a couple of shorter little games. So Grim Fandango is a Double Fine game. I like that developer. It looks cute. It looks fun. It looks funny. And I'm looking forward to playing that one. It's one that I've been wanting to play for a while and just haven't gotten around to. That's the same story for many of these. Heavy Rain is very, very much the same. It's by Quantic Dream, same company that did Beyond Two Souls and Detroit Become Human. It was actually the first of those games that was made, and it's like a detective story about trying to find the origami killer. I do know the story of this game because I watched a Let's Play of it back when I didn't have a console that I could play it on. So I know the story. And that's why I played the other games first, because I didn't know the story for them. But I am excited to go back and play Heavy Rain. That's definitely one that I want to do soon. And then last on the list is This War of Mine, The Little Ones. Another game that I have completed before on Xbox that I really enjoyed. And it's a resource management, base building kind of little game. And it's very brutal. It's meant to show what war is like for civilians who are trying to survive through a war and an occupation. And it's gritty, it's realistic, it's, I think, kind of challenging. And I just really enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed that game when I played it before, and I wanted to play it again on the PlayStation. And actually, the developer of the game recently there was a little promotion that they did to try to get some support for Ukraine and the civilians who are being impacted by the war there. And they decided that for a week, any of the proceeds from people who purchased the game would go to the Red Cross over in Ukraine to help people there. And so I bought the game again on PlayStation for that reason. I was planning on buying it anyway, and that was just a good little incentive to get me to go ahead and buy it and send some support their way. Regardless of your politics, I think everybody can agree that war is terrible, and anything that we can do to make it in any minuscule amount better for somebody over there, I wanted to do. So that is the reason why that's kind of on my list right now. It feels poignant right now, I guess I should say. So that is my trophy list and my anticipated platinums coming up. Like I said, that list of the next 10 may change a little bit depending. I may decide that I want to do something else. Iron War Machine and I may decide to do another co-op game in the midst of some of those things. So it may end up looking a little bit different. But as I get platinums from now on, for every single one of them, I'm going to make a video. I'm going to showcase a little bit of my gameplay from that game. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how that experience was for me. I'm really looking forward to that and sharing this journey with you on my way to 100 platinums with each milestone along the way. So thank you very much for going on this little journey with me through my trophy list. I hope that you enjoyed it. Please leave me comments down below about what you think of the games that I've played so far. Are they things that you've enjoyed? Are there things that you think that I really should play? Please, I welcome all of your suggestions. I do have a little backlog of games that I definitely want to get through, but I always enjoy hearing recommendations for things that people think are good experiences. I'm not a fan of every genre of game. Like I said, I'm not really big into multiplayer. There are certain things, like I'm not a big racing game fan. I'm not a sports game fan. There are certain genres that I just don't really love playing, and so I probably won't put any of those kinds of things on PlayStation because, like I've said, I'm a choosier gamer now than I was in the past, and so I'm really trying to only play things that I really want to play. Probably a lot of PlayStation exclusives that I haven't had a chance to play over the years. Probably a lot of co-op games that I'm going to be playing with my best friend Iron War Machine, and probably a lot of games that I have completed before and really loved and therefore want to complete again. So that's probably gonna be the name of the game for PlayStation for me. But I welcome any suggestions that you guys have. What do you think are some of the best games on PlayStation that I have not played yet? What are some of your proudest completions? What are the platinums that you've really enjoyed collecting? I want to hear about it. I want to talk to you guys. Thank you so much for watching. You guys take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video.